Hunter Biden's legal team meeting with the officials in the Department of Justice yesterday. Hunter has been under federal investigation now since 2018, but has not been charged with any crime. The meeting coming after the president's son's lawyers requested an update on that federal probe. Joining me right now is Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Dershowitz. He's the author of the best-selling book, Get Trump, The Threat to Civil Liberties, Due Process, and Our Constitutional Rule of Law. Alan, great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Well, isn't it interesting to see how Hunter Biden is treated versus Donald Trump? Is this another piece of evidence of a dual application of the law in America?
Well, I think the Justice Department generally will give a meeting to anybody who is subject of an investigation. It shows several things. First of all, it was the Biden people who sought the meeting, which means they're probably in a negotiating mode. People don't seek a meeting just for a status report or an update. You can do that on the phone. When you bring in a group of lawyers to talk to people in the Justice Department, it's generally part of a negotiation. So it would not surprise me if there were ultimately a resolution of this case short of a public indictment, some kind of an information and a plea bargain. But that's just speculation. But the meeting was sought by the Biden people, and that tells us something.
Yeah, I mean, look, James Comer, the chairman of the Oversight Committee, has told us that he believes there are at least now 12 Biden family members who have received money from communist China in one way or another because they have all of these LLCs, that the money goes from China to LLCs, and then from the LLCs, they go into Biden family personal accounts. Here's James Comer with me recently about what he's investigating. Listen to this.
Right now we have 9, but I believe in the end that number will be at least 12. I mean, this was the Biden family influence peddling scheme. And you know, when people say, well, they were involved in ventures around the world, I haven't found a legitimate business on the Biden end, Maria.
So we're trying to understand what exactly these Biden family members were being paid for. Meanwhile, the Manhattan DA's office is looking to limit former President Trump's access to some evidence in the case against him. They also want to stop Trump from publicizing the prosecution's evidence, like on social media. In a filing this week, Alan, Manhattan Assistant DA Catherine McCaw writes this: the risk that this defendant will use the covered materials inappropriately is substantial. So they're taking away his rights, Alan.
Well, not only that, they're presuming him guilty. They're presuming him guilty not only of this alleged crime, but of the Florida one, because they also cited the Florida case saying he can't be trusted with confidential material. Look, this is all part of a Get Trump process. I didn't invent the term Get Trump for my book. That came from the campaign pledges of the district attorney and the attorney general of New York. It is not justice for anybody to campaign for prosecution office on the promise to get somebody and then to indict them and to have jurors selected from a pool of people who voted for the district attorney who made the promise to get Trump. You can't get a fair trial that way. But the important point is not only that the DA seems to be biased against Trump, the judges seem to be biased against Trump. Virtually every judicial ruling that we're getting in these cases, including in the civil rape case, have been against Trump, and many of them would not have been rendered against somebody named John Smith. So we're seeing a combination of prosecutorial and judicial bias against Trump, and the result very likely will be a conviction in New York, because any prosecutor, you can indict a ham sandwich, but you can convict a ham sandwich when you have a biased prosecutor, judges who seem to be inclined against Trump, and jurors who will be selected who voted for the person who promised to get Trump.
Yeah.
This is not justice American style. This is what El Salvador president warned about when he said to the Americans, don't lecture us about democracy when you're going after the man who's trying to defeat your incumbent president. That's banana republic stuff.
I tell you, Alan, this is so disturbing, and I want to get your take on the implications of this. I mean, these are the fundamental values of America, and they're just being destroyed. Andy McCarthy wrote in his most recent National Review op-ed, Bragg's charges, even in the unlikely event he can prove them, are too trivial to warrant the baleful consequences that come with them, Alan. And yet, this is moving forward. They want to stop Trump from running and potentially potentially winning in 2024 at all costs.
There's no question about that. And the biggest hypocrisy comes from the academic and the media left. The same people who said that the charges against President Clinton, and I was involved in helping to defend President Clinton. I'm a liberal Democrat who voted against Trump. The very same people who were saying that the charges against Bill Clinton were trivial because they involved a personal sexual matter in the Oval Office of the White House are saying, well, no, it doesn't matter that it involved a personal matter years ago, which is denied and which has been resolved. The hypocrisy of the academic and the media left is beyond even imagination. And there's nobody out there defending civil liberties, not the American Civil Liberties Union, not the usual people in the academy, not the New York Times, not any of the liberal establishment. And for me, as a liberal, as a person who defended the rights of liberals for 60 years of my life, the idea that they're now turning into McCarthyites, they're now using the tactics of McCarthyism against Donald Trump is so disappointing. But I guess when you've practiced as long as I have, nothing should surprise you. But the hypocrisy of the academic and the media left today is just appalling. Who's left to defend our civil liberties?
Well, look, there are a few of us out there who are seeking and searching for truth online as well as at Fox. But you're right. The media, the left, they want Fox dead. They just do not want this because they're clouded by this hate Trump, I guess, and their derangement over Donald Trump. I can't explain it, but it certainly is quite disturbing.
It's a great danger to civil liberties since McCarthyism, and it's going to get worse because these are young people.
Wow.
These are people in the academy who are going to be our future leaders.
That's really unfortunate. Alan, great to get your take as always. Good to see you, sir.